Imagine a monster that grows as huge as a mountain simply by devouring all the iron in the world, impervious to arrows and completely unfazed by swords. This is the legendary beast known as Bul-ga-sal. But where on earth did this terrifying creature come from? And more importantly, how could it ever be defeated? A bizarre tale born from blind human greed. The story begins now. The iron-eating monster. I hear there's a beheading today. Oh my goodness, how could such a terrible thing happen? What are we going to do? Whispering here and murmuring there, groups of people gathered with ominous expressions, sharing their worries. What are we supposed to do about this? Well, if Lord Shin is gone, what will happen to the people amidst the extortion and robbery? Forget the people. What will happen to the country? That's exactly what I mean. In July of the 20th year of King Gongmin of Goryeo, although the peak of summer had barely passed, the sun was still hot enough to melt iron, and within the walls of Suwon, people gathered in every corner, whispering among themselves. It had been about a month since Lord Shindan was exiled to Suwon due to a wicked frame-up. Because he had previously enjoyed so much of the king's trust, Shindan himself was somewhat relieved and looked forward to the day the king's anger would melt away so he could return to the capital, and the people also believed this would happen. But today, unexpectedly, Daesaseong Imbak had come down from the capital under royal command to behead Shindan. Imbak's entourage entered Suwon shortly after noon. From noon until the hour of the rooster, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m., the city of Suwon was buzzing as if a beehive had been poked. Because the escorting guards formed multiple layers and stood at every strategic point to suppress any public unrest, nothing could be done on the surface, but the underlying fear and chaotic energy covered the whole world. For 6 years, after being called by the king in his 14th year of reign to take on the role of prime minister, under the astonishing political prowess of this extraordinary man of monk origins, the chaotic political situation of Goryeo was reorganized, and the people of Goryeo, who had been struggling under the tyranny of former ministers, could finally breathe. Just as songs praising the appearance of a saint were reaching their peak, Shindan incurred the king's wrath over a trivial matter and fell out of favor. Once Shindan fell out of the king's favor, all the generations of Goryeo ministers, who had not been able to raise their heads under Shindan's suppression, rose up and falsely accused him to the king, saying, Shindan plotted treason. If he had plotted treason, he would of course be beheaded immediately. However, no matter how much they dug into it, there was not a single piece of evidence that Shindan had plotted treason. The more they investigated, the more evidence appeared showing just how much Shindan had agonized and worked for the king, the country, and the people. Thus, since he was a sinner, caught under the pretext of plotting treason, it would be awkward to just release him outright, so they concluded the matter with the lightest punishment, exile to Suwon. Because things turned out this way, Shindan himself firmly believed that he would soon be cleared of all charges and regain political power. And the people did not doubt this either. But then, suddenly, Daesaseong Imbak had rushed from the capital to Suwon with a royal command to cut off Shindan's head. The security was immense. Since he was a prime minister who had held the absolute trust of the king and the entire populace until recently, the government soldiers were glaring around, keeping strict guard in case anything happened. In the midst of this, time passed through the hour of the sheep and the hour of the monkey, and the hour of the rooster was almost at hand. The sun, which had been beating down brightly until then, suddenly became cloudy. A fist-sized lump of cloud rose from the eastern side. The rising cloud covered the whole sky in an instant. Thunder and lightning, the world, which had been submerged in scorching sunlight just moments before, suddenly sank into gloomy darkness. Amidst this, the soldiers glared around even more fiercely, guarding every road and alley. And as the hour of the rooster for the execution approached, even the higher-ranking officials wrapped themselves tightly in rain gear, mounted their horses, and monitored the city. However, this suddenly changed weather. Because the day, which had been perfectly fine until noon, suddenly became violently stormy with thunder and lightning, it seemed they too were feeling no small amount of fear in their hearts. They patrolled and kept guard, but the expressions on their faces were clearly anxious. Thunder and lightning. Under the harsh weather, at the hour of the rooster that day, the former Prime Minister Lord Shin-don ended his 70 years of life under the executioner's sword. On the day Lord Shin-don was beheaded in Suwon, in the guest room of Minister Yi Song-ye's house in Saseong-gol, Hamhung, all servants were kept away, and the master of the house, Minister Yi, sat silently alone. A scroll painting hung at the head of the room. It was a scroll depicting a plump and gentle figure sitting on a folding chair, staring blankly ahead, and it was undoubtedly a portrait of Lord Shin-don, who was to be beheaded in Suwon today. Minister Yi sat neatly at an angle in the warmest part of the room, silently staring at the scroll with his piercing eyes. The clouds that covered the sky of Suwon also covered the sky here in pitch black. With thunder and lightning striking continuously as if shaking the earth, and a terrifying downpour roaring and flooding the courtyard, Minister Yi stared intently at Shin-don's portrait with a tense expression, as if expecting something. The awaited hour of the rooster. Then a bizarre thing happened. Even though there was no wind, the scroll on the wall swayed once. After fluttering and swaying once, it fell onto the floor with a thud. It was at that moment. The whole world flashed white once. Following that, an astonishing sound of thunder rang out, and the whole world shook violently. Minister Yi, who had been sitting as if glued to his spot, only then moved his body. He moved forward one step while still seated. He moved forward, pulled the scroll that had fallen on the floor towards him, and looked into it. As he looked at it, the paleness on his face finally disappeared, and a cheerful smile began to emerge instead. Shin-don inside the scroll, his plump and amicable face, a long streak had formed, starting from his forehead, going down his cheek to his neck. Now you are dead too. The world is now my world. Who is there to suppress me after you are dead? Even you, who I thought would hold power forever, have your day to die. Without you, who in this Goryeo can match me? Hey Gyeong-sung, come here. He finally called for a servant. Did you call for me? What surprised the servant Gyeong-sang when he came and looked was that a cheerful smile, which he had not seen for a long time, was overflowing on his master's face. Bring me a drinking table. Yes, sir. Listening to Gyeong-sang's retreating footsteps, Minister Yi picked up the scroll of Pyeongjo and tore it into shreds, crumpling it up. 20 years passed. While Shin-don was alive, Minister Yi, unable to escape Shin-don's sharp eyes and alienated by him, could not stay in the capital and only lived on the borders. But after Shin-don died, he gradually appeared on the central stage and eventually became the minister with the most outstanding ability and majestic presence among the central ministers. His insight, leadership, and energetic personality made him an indispensable great pillar in the Goryeo dynasty, which was lacking in talented figures. However, in the heart of Minister Yi, who had spent decades of misfortune early on because of Shin-don, the hatred towards Shin-don could not be erased. And his hatred for Shin-don gradually expanded, transforming into a hatred for the entire class of monks. Just as the saying goes, if you hate the monk, you even hate his cassock. Furthermore, considering the state of Tuyot-torn, the Goryeo dynasty at the time, he could not help but consciously persecute monks. The current ministers of the Goryeo dynasty were all, without exception, people who had been despised by Shin-don during his reign. To win the favor of Goryeo's ministers, it was politically necessary to suppress the monks. On top of that, in order to turn the hearts of the Goryeo people, who had praised Shin-don and Buddhism under the vigorous politics of the monk-turned-politician Shin-don during his 6 years in power, towards himself, there was a need to eliminate Buddhism. Thus, as Minister Yi gradually began to seize power in the center, he put all his effort into fiercely persecuting Buddhism. Knowing full well that mere oppression would not be enough to uproot the Buddhist faith from the hearts of the people, Minister Yi fabricated various evil deeds about Shin-don and spread them among the public. Shin-don is unparalleled in lewdness. Shin-don is unparalleled in greed. He raped the women of ministerial families in such and such ways. He committed such and such evil deeds. He fabricated all kinds of rumors and had his confidants spread them to the world. After decades of steadily suppressing Buddhism like this, the forgetful people of Goryeo forgot Shin-don's past achievements. the elderly died off, and now people believed Shindan was a wicked man, and their faith in Buddhism gradually weakened. At such a time, the Goryeo court put a bounty on capturing monks. If you catch a monk and hand him over to the authorities, you will be rewarded with 5,000 yang of gold and an official position. Here, the era of Buddhist persecution in the late Goryeo dynasty began. Gyeongsang. Yes, sir. Minister Yi sitting in the main hall, and Gyeongsang standing with his hands folded in respect below the stone steps. Do you not want to hold a government post? What kind of government post could a lowly person like me be destined for? Ah, you foolish fellow. Have you even tried hard to see if a post is in your destiny or not? If you catch a monk and offer him to the country, you will be given an official position. You might not be able to render distinguished service to the country in other matters, but couldn't you catch and hand over a monk? Will I get a government post if I catch and hand over a monk? Of course. You're quite strong, aren't you? I could catch and hand over half a dozen monks right away. Let's see you catch one, then. On the night this conversation took place between master and servant, Gyeongshang stayed up all night discussing it with his wife. If he stayed in this house of Minister Yi, he would never be anything more than a servant. But if he went out and tried to catch a monk, and by luck managed to catch just one, he would obtain a government post. If they left this house, making a living might be difficult right away, but since he would get an official post if he just caught a monk in the future, they decided not to mind the immediate hardship and to leave the house to try and catch a monk. After discussing it with his wife all night, he bid farewell to his master the next morning. This lowly servant will also catch monks. Do you think you can catch one? If I keep wandering around, there will surely be a day I meet one. Yes, do that. Go and bring them in batches of 10 or 20 at once. With this farewell, he left Minister Yi's house, where he had been attached for a long time. Because the order to catch monks was so strict, monks did not show their faces inside the capital. That said, if he went all the way to a distant temple, there would certainly be monks there. But trying to catch a monk there would likely result in him getting humiliated by the monks instead. Also, if it was too far from the capital, it would be difficult to drag the captured monk back. Therefore, Gyeongsang and his wife acquired a small house just outside the walls of the capital and decided to live there. If T were there, unlike inside the city walls, an alms-begging monk might occasionally come by. And being there, unlike a distant place, there would be no inconvenience in dragging the monk into the capital once caught. So they set up a house there, and Gyeongsang would just eat breakfast, pack his lunch, and immediately leave the house to wander around the vicinity, carefully looking everywhere to see if any monk was passing by. This went on for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. He would leave after eating only breakfast and wander around to catch a monk, but when he returned in the evening, he would always come back empty-handed and exhausted. Because the government edict was so strict, monks rarely came near the capital. Still haven't caught one? Every time he returned empty-handed and exhausted, his wife, who had been waiting hoping he might catch one today, would ask with a disappointed expression, "I didn't catch any. Are there really none around?" "There aren't. There just aren't." "Then what do we do?" "I don't know." The starting money he received from Minister Yi when he left was now almost completely spent. He absolutely had to catch a monk before it was all gone. If he couldn't catch a monk, he wouldn't get a government post, and if he didn't get a post, he would have no way to eat. Yet going back to Minister Yi's house now would be too shameful. So he had to catch a monk somehow. But not a trace of a monk could be seen. Gyeongsang and his wife could only sigh. One day the husband went out to catch monks as usual, and while the wife was sewing alone, she heard the squeak of the front gate opening. Gyeongsang's wife, who had been sewing, lifted her eyes and looked out. "He came! A monk came! A monk is here to beg for alms." A monk had come to ask for food. The moment she saw the monk, Gyeongsang's wife felt her chest grow heavy, as if she were suffocating. What should she do about this? He did come, but what could she do about this all by herself? If she missed him, the monk would go to another house. If he was caught there, the official post would go to that house. A bundle of good luck had walked right in, so how could she grab this fortune? Suppressing her dizzy eyes and tight chest, she calmed her fluttering heart. To slowly figure out a good plan, she tossed aside her sewing to at least pretend to give alms, stood up, and went outside. Stepping down into the courtyard and putting on her shoes while looking at the monk, Gyeongsang's wife was startled. "Oh my goodness, who is this?" The monk, not expecting this scream, looked back at her. "Ah, aren't you Bulgasal? Oh my brother. I heard a rumor you were in Hamhung, so how come you are here? It's been a while since we came. Anyway, please come up." "Well, I will come up, but I am quite hungry. Do you happen to have any cold rice in the house? Anyway, please come up." "All right." The monk trudged up onto the wooden porch. "Brother, then please wait while I set a table with some cold rice to bring in." "Okay, just give me whatever you have." The monk went into the room, and Gyeongsang's wife parted ways to the kitchen. She went to the kitchen to set a table for her brother, but Gyeongsang's wife's heart was torn into thousands and tens of thousands of pieces. A monk had arrived. Over the past few months, her husband had gone out early at dawn and dragged his exhausted body back home only after dark, solely for the purpose of catching a monk, hadn't he? And a monk had walked right into this house on his own. They had to catch a monk to get a government post. If they caught a monk, they would get a government post. An official post flickered before her eyes, an official post wavering in the air. If she just caught her brother and gave him to her husband, they would get a post. Once her husband secured an official position, she would reach a status where she could sit and boss servants around. Blinded by the desire for a government and to post, this woman had already fully made up her mind by the time she brought the dining table in. "Brother." As soon as the monk pushed the table away, Gyeongsang's wife quietly called her brother. "What is it?" "You must know too, brother. The order to capture monks is strict right now, and because they promise a government post to anyone who catches one, everyone is wandering around with bloodshot eyes trying to catch monks. I have heard. To tell you the truth, my husband is also out wandering right now trying to catch a monk. How can you travel around in the midst of all this? If I get caught, I get caught." "What are you talking about? Besides, this place is close to the capital, so it's incredibly dangerous." "Well, where are you heading now? Do I have a specific destination? Wherever you go, don't travel during the day. Hide in our wall closet today and leave the house at night." "Well, please do so. What if something goes wrong and you suffer humiliation?" "I don't mind anything, but since you say so, shall I leave at night, then?" "Please do. During the day, it would be bad if someone came to the village and saw you, so even though it might be a bit stuffy, go inside the wall closet and stay hidden." "All right." Thus, Gyeongsang's wife hid her brother in the wall closet. No, locked him in, and even silently latched it from the outside. Having captured a monk, she waited eagerly for her husband to return, and the husband barely made it back, completely drained of energy, only when it was nearly dark. "Phew, my legs just hurt." The wife greeted her husband, who slumped down exhaustedly without taking off his shoes, with a proud face. "Honey? Yeah?" She quickly pointed at the wall closet with her eyes. "Huh?" The wife hastily covered her mouth with her hand to signal him not to speak, and pointed at the wall closet with her eyes. "Did you suddenly become mute? What is wrong with you?" "No, you must be hungry, right?" She said something else with her mouth while continuously pointing only at the wall closet. The husband had no idea what was going on. He didn't know what was happening, but anyway, because his wife was pointing at the wall closet so emphatically, he picked up his weary body, went over to the wall closet, and opened it. Whoa! There was some monk crouching inside the wall closet. Gyeongsang was terrified. "What is this?" "Ah, is it you, brother-in-law?" "Brother-in-law?" Gyeongsang, whose ears perked up at these words, looked at the monk's face. Because it was dark inside the wall closet, he couldn't see clearly, but it was definitely the appearance of his brother-in-law whom he had seen many years ago. "Who is this?" "It's me." The monk slowly crawled out of the wall closet. "No, but why were you in the wall closet?" "My sister told me to go in and hide because it's dangerous." "What?" In that moment, Gyeongsang understood the whole situation. It was clear that his wife, wanting a government post, had locked him in the wall closet while outwardly pretending to hide him. Glancing at his wife's face, she had a bizarre expression, as if both uncomfortable and proud. Gyeongsang had his brother-in-law come out into the room, and he quietly stepped out into the courtyard, expecting, of course, that his wife would follow him out. And indeed, his wife followed him out shortly after. Gyeongsang silently went around to the backyard. The wife followed him around from behind. Reaching the front of the well in the backyard, Gyeongsang stopped walking, and he looked back, waiting for his wife to arrive. The wife came close to her husband, smiling brightly as if she were proud. "Now you have your government post." Gyeongsang looked down at his wife with heavy eyes. "Yeah, I won't miss out on a bijang position. Then you have to buy me a silk jogori." "I will get you a jogori. But what if, after I become a bijang, the general makes a pass at you?" The wife took it as a joke, and she just kept smiling and was about to look up at her husband, but shuddered because his face had such a terrifying expression. "Go on, answer me." "To answer. Since you're a bitch who puts her own flesh and blood brother in a deadly trap just to become a bijang's wife, wouldn't you kill me, who is of a different surname, to become the general's concubine?" The wife tried to say something in response. However, before that answer could come out, Gyeongsang grabbed his wife and shoved her headfirst into the well. Then he dusted off his hands once and went into the room. "Look here, your sister tried to sell you out to get a government post. If even your own sister is like that, how can you trust strangers? It's a miracle you even made it here without getting caught by someone. Now, if you step out of this house, you will surely catch someone's eye. You will be captured, and the person who discovers you will get a government post. So don't leave for a while and stay hidden. Hide in the wall closet your sister locked you in for a while. I will bring you meals every time, so stay put and don't come out. Then, after the world calms down a bit, flee somewhere. If you go out now, you'll be caught immediately." Threatening and advising him like this, Gyeongsang hid his brother-in-law monk inside the wall closet, and he passed meals into the wall closet at every mealtime. Yet, because his desire for an official post still hadn't vanished, he would leave the house every morning to catch a different monk, not his brother-in-law, and only return when it got dark in the evening. The brother-in-law monk trapped inside the wall closet. Other than eating the food brought to him every day, he had nothing to do. It was beyond stuffy and frustrating. When food was brought in, he would just eat it and had no choice but to sit idle all day long, crouching without any companions. Because he was so stuffy and bored, he played a trick. He picked up the leftover crumbs after eating the food brought to him and rubbed them together to make something like a lump of rice cake. With that lump of rice cake, he made a tiny animal. After making the animal, he found a needle case in the wall closet, took out a needle, and tried feeding it to the animal. Then, the animal snatched it up and swallowed the needle completely. He then tried feeding a nail to the animal, which had grown slightly larger as it ate needles, and it gulped that down as well. After feeding it nails, he fed it scissors and knives, and after that he took off the cauldron lid and fed it. In this way, swallowing any iron it was given without fail, the animal grew bigger day by day. Thus, when it became about the size of a medium dog, it leaped out of the house and went into the Songgak forest to hide. One day, Gyeongsang had been wandering around all day to catch a monk again and returned home exhausted, only to find the brother-in-law monk out of the wall closet, carrying a bundle and ready to hit the road, waiting for Gyeongsang's return. "I owe you a lot. I will leave today." "Ah, is it okay for you to leave? What else can I do? By the way, since you wander out every day, do you really want to get a government post that badly? Look here, does that even need to be said? Do you want an official post that much? Absolutely. Do you really have to catch a monk to get a post? Ah, without doing so, how could someone like me snag a government position? I will teach you a way to get a post, so give up the thought of catching monks." "How?" The monk fumbled and opened his pocket. Then he took out something that looked like a flint pouch. "Look here, keep this well." "What is that?" "Keep it well, and when you face a huge event in the future, open it up. Then a path to a government post will open up without you having to catch a monk." Is that true? Does a Buddhist monk lie? Gyeongsang took it and stored it deep inside a wooden chest. Late that night, accompanied by Gyeongsang's sen, Diof, the monk retraced the path of ascetic practice. An iron-eating monster has appeared in the capital. It was about a month later that such a bizarre rumor began to spread. A bizarre beast the size of a calf had come down from Songak and was roaming around, devouring all the iron in the capital. This was not just a rumor, but a true fact. It was something that all the people in the capital had seen. Being an iron-eating monster, it would gulp down arrows when shot at, and gulp down iron clubs when struck. It was a strange beast with unparalleled strength that human power could do nothing about. The capital was like boiling water. The people were all trembling with fear. It rampaged around, swallowing up all kinds of iron, starting from small things like needles to large things like cauldrons and plowshares. Within a few days of the bizarre beast's appearance, almost all the iron in the capital had already disappeared. However, because its strength was unmatched and it did not fear arrows, there was nothing that could be done. Even if they deployed the army, it would just eat the arrowheads shot by the troops as if they were delicious, so even the army proved ineffective against the beast. Finally, the country put a bounty on catching this beast. They would give 50,000 yang of gold, grant a high official position, and completely pardon any past sins. However, no one stepped forward to answer this call. Upon seeing this notice, Gyeongsang suddenly recalled something. The iron-eating beast must be that very animal his brother-in-law had made and released earlier. Right before his brother-in-law left, there was something he had entrusted to him, telling him to look at it if he wanted a government post. Gyeongsang hurriedly ran back home, opened the wooden chest, and unfolded the pouch his brother-in-law had given him before leaving the other day. Inside it, there was a single piece of paper. When he unfolded the paper, it simply had the words, Bulgasal, written on it. Bulgasal, that's it. That beast can easily be caught using fire. Without stopping, Gyeongsang ran straight to his former master, Minister Yi's house. Your Excellency, this lowly servant has come to pay his respects. Minister Yi looked down from the main hall. Who is it? It is this lowly servant. Oh, isn't it Gyeongsang? You're still alive and well? Thanks to your Excellency. Yes, so why have you come? You know about that iron-eating monster, don't you? And? Is it true they will give a government post if it's caught? They certainly will. This lowly servant will catch it. Are you capable of catching it? I will catch it. If you just catch it, you won't miss out on a generous official post. But your Excellency, I have one request. What is it? Please procure just one pile of iron as big as a house. Iron? Yes. What are you going to use it for? I will stack the iron up and catch the beast when it comes to eat it. Do you think it will be caught that easily? This lowly servant has caught it for sure. Then I will prepare the iron. Thus, an agreement was made. Based on the promise, Minister Yi had a pile of iron made in the broad courtyard. Gyeongsang hid near the iron pile. And he waited for the beast to arrive. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. It was only on the 4th day that the beast smelled the iron and lumbered over to the pile. Looking at it, the thing that was barely the size of a puppy when it left his house had now become huge, like a small mountain. The beast came to the iron pile and started eating the stacked iron as if it were delicious. Gyeongsang crawled out from where he was hiding, and he gradually approached the beast, concealing the sound of his footsteps. However, even if he hadn't hidden his footsteps, the beast would never harm Gyeongsang. Looking at its past history, not only had this beast never harmed anything other than iron, but it also briefly glanced back at John. Ji-sang approaching silently and then ignored him, starting to eat the iron again. Gyeongsang walked around to the back, close to the beast. Then he took out the flint pouch he had prepared in advance, placed the mugwort tinder and flint against the beast's tail hair, and struck the flint. It was at that moment. Flames flared up with a whoosh and then just died down. After that, the mountain-sized beast that had been visible right before their eyes completely vanished without a trace. And in the spot where the beast had been, there was only a dirty lump of rice left alongside the uneaten iron. The crowd swarmed in loudly. Ministers who had been watching from afar gave their praises. The bizarre beast had been completely vanquished. As a reward for eradicating this beast, Gyeongsang obtained the government post and wealth he had long desired, remarried, and not only lived the rest of his life with both wealth and honor, but also received the favor and trust of Minister Yi. Later, after Minister Yi led the Goryeo Revolution and became King Taejo of the Yi dynasty, Gyeongsang rose to become one of his key ministers, establishing a great family of the Joseon dynasty that produced many famous ministers and great scholars generation after generation. Because that beast was caught using fire, it was called Bulgasal at that time, but a while later it was corrupted into Bulgasal, and even later the name became completely fixed as Bulgasal. The monster that started from a small clump of rice and almost swallowed the world ended up vanishing in vain from a single small spark. It was called Bulgasal because it could be killed by fire, but as time passed, its name changed to Bulgasal, meaning absolutely unkillable, and it has been passed down to this day. If you found today's story interesting, please subscribe and like. Have a peaceful night today as well, with Slow Night Ancient Tales.